Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm Stephen Marcellino Jr., Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric, and I'm here today with a good friend, Gennaro Arpaia. He is the co-owner of Seal Proof Corporation, and today Gennaro is going to tell us a little bit about his journey on how he got to Seal Proof, some do's and don'ts of the industry, and how he came to be today as a powerhouse in the waterproofing sector of the construction business. Gennaro, thank you for coming on today, and tell us a little bit about Seal Proof and what you guys do.
Thank you for having me, Steve. My name is Gennaro. Started Seal Proof in the pandemic of 2020. June of 2020, I became established. My partner is my wife. We're in the process of doing WBE. She sees a little bit of the day-to-day operations. Basically, my father was in the business since '84 with my godfather. Wow. And he never wanted me in the business. I ended up going to Pace University, graduated in advertising and promotions, worked for Miss Universe, Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and then 9/11 hit, and the marketing industry was taking a flop.
Gotcha.
I sat down my godfather because I knew not to go to my father, and I was like, I'm thinking about wanting to come to work with you guys. So, I mean, I did a couple things here and there with my father and my godfather on the weekends. We did traffic coatings, which is the coatings that you see in the parking garages. A bunch of little things like caulking, sheet membrane on foundations. But I really didn't know I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know how to read blueprints or anything. So basically, I'm self-taught. You know,
Wow.
They brought me on board, bumped heads a lot. Family and business don't mix. But I will tell you this, since I went out on my own, that's the part of my journey. Me and my father have a better relationship than we ever had. My godfather, I still talk to him, even though he is one of my competitors. But I try not to bump heads with him because.
So coming from, the avenue you took to get to where you are today, how did you self-teach? The ins and outs of the trade, like learning how to read blueprints and how to estimate a job and how to look at a job from ground up and kind of understanding the project management of a project, because anybody involved in construction, specifically in the the New York City tri-state area, they're complex projects. They're not easy to complete. There's a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of financial stress on the bonding and insuring side. Making sure blueprints are read accurately so there's no change orders throughout the the project progress. So how did you self-teach, all these different ins and outs of the trade to get to the point where you were allowed to open up your own business and be as successful as you are today?
A lot of trial and error, hands-on stuff. I believe if you're going to own a business, you should know how to actually install the product, and I think the best thing that ever happened in the industry, also not that good, was the internet. Like, you could sit down and see how things are being installed. You could find out things about insurances, about how to do requisitions. Like I said, I'm self-taught. I learned through my godfather, but I also brought my marketing aspect from my college degree into the business.
Gotcha.
Because my godfather always said that we're not in the waterproof and roofing industry. We're in the service industry. We're here to service them. So I learned how to market. I do a lot of outgoings, like I'll go to like IBEC, it's called, iCry. It's the waterproofing industry. Like I don't know if the electrical industry has one too, but that's where I network a lot, and I do a lot of golf outings. I sponsor golf outings, and I know a lot of people in this industry. Like I know a lot of union roofers that call me to help them out on a couple things. I know a lot of non-union guys that help me out on the things. My company's non-union, but I do give my guys prevailing wage work.
Interesting. So you're set up with the government to be able to bid on those prevailing wage opportunities.
So I try to get my guys at least three prevailing wage jobs a year. And they're happy. And my guys are good at what they do. They get paid well. I offer whatever I can give them. And like I said, I'm a one-man show right now, even though I have my wife backing me.
Yeah.
Like, I do all my estimates. I do all the requisitions. I go to look at jobs. I'm out the door like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
How many men do you have in the field?
Right now we have five.
Five
Guys.
And what is your territory? Where do you cover?
So what I usually do, it's a tri-state area. I'm doing work in Connecticut. I'm doing work in the 5 boroughs. I do work in Jersey. So I try not to go anywhere over an hour.
Over an hour.
Yeah, over an hour. You know.
Yeah, because it's a lot. When you start getting into, the drives that are hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it beats up your vans. Logistics of getting material around become a lot more difficult. So it's definitely a lot of undue stress when you start increasing that territory range. And, I'm guessing based on your drive to grow your business eventually, that may be in the fold for you to grow your territory, expand the different, states or townships that you work in. And, I don't see that as a non-option for you, but it's good now that you have a focus on where you want to operate. To go back a little, I know you said you do a lot, you self-perform on a lot of your estimates and probably like the sale and execution of your projects. What are some of the tactics you're following now to get new bid opportunities and actually sell your projects on a self-performance level? Because a lot of these bigger construction companies that are out there, like Lapolis and some of the other big shops, there's sales teams, there's marketing teams, and you have 10 people doing the job of what you're doing as one person on top of, managing your own work and all the other day-to-day operations. So how are you seeing through those processes, and being as successful as you are?
I'm a specialty trade. So below grade waterproofing, there was only like 5 or 6 guys. Now the industry's changing. A lot of these concrete guys are doing their own waterproofing. I will tell you this, I'm not the cheapest guy, but you will get the service, like I said, like top-notch service. Sometimes I'm going to have to lower my price to get my guys. I'm a firm believer for my guys always working,
It's very important.
Like, I won't be able to survive if my guys don't survive. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always looking out for my guys. Even if it's a job that's only going to be for 2 guys, I'll throw my other guy on there. Or like, I have multiple jobs going on at once. But like I said, the industry's changing. Like, and I will say that there's still loyalty out there, but also all these new up and coming companies, they only care about the lowest number.
Yeah.
And I do a specialty trade too, grout injections. There's times that I bid it on a job. A guy came in lower than me, and then I got a phone call 2 years later that I had to fix all the leaks that were in the basement.
And that's a major point that we see a lot of, especially in the electrical industry. We call it value engineering a project. When you go in, you bid the scope the way it's spec'd out and in the bid package, and next thing you know, people want to change the type of conduits being used, or they want to remove a certain breaker in a panel and install a panel a specific way, whatever the job changes are. And then, like you said, 2-3 years down the line, that install idea at the time may have saved them a couple $100,000, sometimes not even that much money. They nickel and dime the project, and then they have problems popping up all over the place. It's like going to the doctor, getting the wrong medication, and then next thing you know, for a couple of weeks you feel okay, and then, your sickness comes back 10 times stronger. It's pretty similar in our industry. If you pay for half-assed work, you're going to get a half-assed result. And, it's an epidemic almost, in the sense that, people want the Taj Mahal, but they want to pay $50,000 for it. So it's a big problem that we see across the industry. And hopefully it kind of levels itself out as more developments go up. I think a lot of developers and general contractors are starting to really notice it and pay attention to the fact that they can't operate like this. It becomes too much of a problem. So, it's interesting to have that, that side of the conversation. I know you mentioned before a couple of times customer service. What does customer service mean to you? Because a lot of people have the general conception that the construction industry, everybody's rude and, we just want to build and move on to the next project, and we don't care about what people think or feel about the interaction with us on a day-to-day basis. For me and my team at Lapolis, we're strong believers in customer service, because at the end of the day, without our customers and the people that wake up every day and rely on us to do the right job, there is no work for me. There's no work for our technicians, our electricians, and everybody that we employ at Lapolis Electric. So give me a little insight on your approach to customer service and your thoughts on customer service in the construction business.
Well, customer service is huge. I mean, if you make a wrong impression to one person on that team, they're gonna have a bad taste in their mouth, you know. And it's 9 times out of 10 that'll happen, you know. But there's ways of making it right, and or just saying, well, I'm walking away from this, and that's it, you know. And you're gonna move on to the next customer, you know. But I mean, like I said, I'm a firm believer. I always answer my phone. I do a lot of work with the acidics that that their Sabbath is on Saturday and they'll call you on a Sunday, and I answer my phone on a Sunday. You know, because the acidic community is building a lot of buildings in Brooklyn, and they're moving up to the Bronx now. You know, and they're building up. The buildings are going up like crazy. You know, and like I said, I'm in the customer service. Like I'm the service business, so. If I have to do something on my own, I'm going to do something on my own. I'm going to make it happen. If I can't handle it, then I'm going to tell them, sorry, sir, I'm not going to be able to handle it. And it happens a lot of times. It does. And like when I'll bring it back to like the value engineering. Like if someone comes back to me and says, well, this guy's using this product, I'm like, sorry, but I don't use that product. I know what works. I've been in this industry a very long time, since 2000. You know, my dad always told me, stick with what you know. I have branched off to other products now, so I'm starting to do roofs now too. Like I do hot applied roofs, and that's something I never really got into. But now I'm getting into it and learning the risks of doing it and learning from my mistakes of doing it. You know, because you're only going to be stronger from your faults. You know.
Very true.
So,
and that's a very important statement too on the side of the types of products you use, the method you use. A lot of the time you're not more expensive, you're just doing the right job. And that's extremely important because there's 1,000 different ways to cut corners in any, vertical market of the construction industry, depending on where your products are manufactured, the way they're manufactured, who's manufacturing them. All the way to install methods. Are things being installed properly? Is code being followed? There's so many different variables that come into play when pricing a project that people don't think of. They just, 9 times out of 10, people don't even read your scope letter. They just look at the bottom line and say, oh, you're too expensive. Okay, why am I too expensive? And then you hear crickets on the other side of the phone. Oh, let me open your proposal. I just know what your number is. Okay, well, explain it to me. Maybe we could come to a common understanding of why my number is what it is. Maybe I have too much in my scope. Because a lot of the time, at least when I look at a project, I aim to outline the correct job to make sure that the end user has a 100% operable facility that is safe and efficient. That's my common goal. And that costs money. Just call a spade. And a lot of people would rather get that product that may not be as efficient for longevity, but in the short term, it might work, but is it working efficiently? Is it safe? Is it going to operate in the next 5 to 10 years? You don't know until you come across those contractors that want to give you a product that isn't 100% accurate, and it's a serious problem.
Well, people don't understand either, too. Like, when they see water, the first person they're going to call me is me that was on the job. Like, water is the biggest liability on any building.
Yep.
I mean, you could have a leak from the roof and it's showing up in the basement. The building isn't enclosed. They're calling me and saying, well, you need to come and fix this. Well, we don't know what the problem is first, So that's a lot of the phone calls I get as well. Like, I'm taking time and money out of my schedule to go there and go evaluate the situation. Because it could have been like I'm only as good as the substrate, or I'm only as good as the guy after me. So I could do 100% tip-top waterproofing system, and then I got the concrete guy throwing rebar and puncturing my waterproofing as soon as I leave. And that's and the best thing I think that's ever happened in my industry is the phones with cameras. I have every single one of my employees take pictures before and after when they leave the job.
Well, that's very important.
Very important because we don't know what happened prior, during, or after, you know? So I dot my I's and cross my T's on every single job.
And you have to.
And I have to.
From an insurance and liability perspective.
Well, let's talk about insurance. You know, I mean, I think this insurance right now for this construction industry, I think they're making out better than us. You know, my insurance keeps going up every single year.
Every year.
And the developers and everyone don't realize that's. I mean, right now I gotta really figure about 18 to 20% on my bid, just for insurances.
Wow.
Workers' comp, auto, general liability, umbrella, all that. You know, and then now you have these risk managers reviewing everything. Now they want to see your full policy, and then they don't like one of the clauses you have in your insurances. And then it's a lot of going back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky. I have very good brokers that take care of that, to take the stress off of me. You know, and they make it happen. You know.
But at the end of the day, it's all administrative time. There's insurance premiums that need to be paid. You know, it's not free.
No, it's not.
You know, so this all, like you said, it all goes into the bottom line of the bid package. So shifting gears a little bit, let me ask you, with your schedule that you have and all the different hats you wear, running your business, how do you remain successful in your industry while managing such a busy day, not having a consistent, schedule? Every day is different for you, I imagine. So how do you keep success and, maintain this pace that you keep on a day-to-day basis?
Balance. No one sees what happens behind closed doors, behind the scenes. They can see the car you're driving, they can see the clothes you're wearing, they can see the watch you're wearing, but they don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that happens behind that. I wake up every morning riddled in anxiety, and I ask myself, why do you still do this? And I wake up and I see my beautiful daughter, and I'm like, I do it for my wife and my daughter. And, but behind closed doors, like, I have to have that balance. I make sure that I make time for my family as well, but I also do work on the weekends. I'll wake up early. I'll do a couple hours if I need to get a bid in. Like, I make sure things are done in order for me to have time with my family,
Yeah, that's very important, and that seems to be like a lot of the high performers in our industry, regardless of the trade, The balance is very important, whether you find that balance through shutting off at certain hours of the day and just focusing on family, or, going on vacation a couple times throughout the year, or, weekend getaways, whatever it is to create that separation of the mind and business. And it brings back to a comment you made earlier today on the episode about being available 24/7, because I'm the same way. If somebody calls me, perfect example, I got a call on January 28th at 11 o'clock in the morning. I had just flown home from a franchise conference in Atlanta. The second I landed at Westchester County Airport, emergency service call. Client had a 2,000 amp service blow up. And, what am I going to do? Not answer the phone because I'm a little bit tired? No, these people are relying on myself and Lapolis Electric to be there for them in the good and the bad times, and a lot of people don't realize, in this industry that emergencies aren't convenient. The emergency doesn't wake up on Monday morning at 9 a.m. and say, yeah, I'm going to break down today so I could, fit into the Monday through Friday work schedule. And in our business, we have to almost expect that we need to be available, I'd like to say 25/8, because you never know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen, whether it's, religious exemptions on the weekends or, an emergency in a client's building. If we're not available, me and you aren't the only people that are professionals in our industry. They could call the next guy. So it all comes back to the customer service, how we treat people, the way we answer our phones, and, the way we manage our lives, in this industry. It's extremely important, Where do you see the construction business going within the next 5 years?
I think unions are hurting. The non-union game is very strong right now. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, all the public work, the unions are strong.
Yep, very.
But all these developers are, like we talked about, they're looking for the cheaper way out. But on my non-union jobs, I have a couple big concrete guys that are union that are on that job.
Yep.
So, I think with everything that's going on with the border control and everything, I think a lot more buildings are going to have to be built.
Yeah.
And a lot more schools are going to have to be built.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. You know, there's a lot of world events going on, so to speak, that the infrastructure across the nation is going to need to expand on. You know, a couple on the political side, and then, you know, also too on the electrical energy efficiency and sustainability end. You know, all the talk of car chargers and, you know, energy efficiency initiatives. You know, utility companies are going to have to expand their substations and their transmission yards, and, you know, a lot more overall electrical infrastructure is going to need to be built in, you know, facilities across the city, buildings, etc. And you know, all we can do as subcontractors is just best prepare for whatever is to come. You know, there's a lot of you know, scary waves of you know, economic incline and decline, you know, over the last few years, and, you know, we just have to hope that with all these builds that need to happen, the funding is going to be available. You know, insurance rates are through the roof with the banks, and, you know, not as many people are able to get private bank loans to develop projects the way they would have been able to a few years ago, just because they don't want to pay these insane interest rates, you know, on the money that they need to borrow in order to develop a project. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think that kind of goes into another topic. What in the waterproofing business, do you guys have any kind of like preventative maintenance programs in play to make sure that your waterproofing procedure that's followed during the course of construction is living throughout time and you know, not causing emergencies or whatever it may be? Is there preventative maintenance programs in place similar to the electrical business with the waterproofing business?
Well, what we do is, so they'll ask for a 5-year material warranty, which doesn't mean anything in the industry. And then you got to look at the specs. Usually we just give a 1-year labor warranty. If anything happens in that 1 year, we'll come and fix it. You know, all depending on, if you look at my warranty, it says all depending on what happened throughout the job. So the preventive maintenance, like, so I also do a lot of grout injections. Mm-hmm. So I deal with a lot of management companies, a lot of waterproofing consultants.
Gotcha.
So going back to what we just talked about how the construction industry is going to, how does it look like in 5 years? Since I do a specialty trade, if there's an existing condo or an existing building that's leaking, they have to fix that leak.
Yep.
So I'm always going to I always have that niche to fall back on. So 50% of my business is the grout injections of fixing the leaks. Gotcha. You know? So now going back to the warranty, like I'm going to stand by my 1-year labor warranty. So the rule of thumb is if the building's not leaking within that year, it will never leak unless there's one of these active gods like hurricanes that's going to come and bring a tidal wave, and then everything eroded away, and now there's a new wave of water to come into the building. You know, so that's our rule of thumb as a waterproofer, a below-grade waterproofer. If it doesn't leak after a year, it ain't going to leak.
Gotcha.
You know, so that's my preventative maintenance. I also go into like job things. If I have like a good relationship with somebody, I say like I'm like Allstate, you're in good hands. You know, if you give me the job, we're gonna make sure the job gets done right, and we're gonna make sure within that year there's not gonna be any leaks. You know,
interesting.
And you know what? I also know too much, which also hurts me in this industry. Because I deal with a lot of waterproofing consultants and engineers, and I walk on a job and I'm like, well, this shouldn't be done this way, that shouldn't be done that way. And then I pick up little things here and there when I'm doing a bid and a scope of work. Like some of these guys, they don't pick up some areas that need to be waterproofed, but show on the drawings, you know? And or like sometimes if you're familiar with grade beams and footings, like these guys aren't figuring that you have to wrap the grade beams and footings with waterproofing because the water table could rise. You know, and it hurts me. It hurts me a lot because I dot my I's and cross my T's, like I said, you know, and that all comes down to like, I want to feel comfortable on that job and not worry that, oh, I missed something or we didn't do it the right way.
Yeah. You know? And also too, it's, you know, I would imagine there's a sense of pride behind doing the right project. You know, you don't want to go out there and give somebody, you know, 50% of the job and you're standing behind it, you know, proud of your work, but knowing in the back of your mind that any moment, you know, a rainstorm comes through and this person has a leak in their building from a normal rainstorm. You know, that tarnishes your name and your reputation if that happens, you know, and I think it's important that you pay attention to detail at that level.
So since you're in the electrical business, like, and we deal with plumbers and electricians when they have the conduits coming through the wall. So a lot of these electrical companies don't know what link seals are. So when they core drill through the wall, we do our little detail around, and they're supposed to put a link seal through around the pipe so that no water can come through the wall.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, link seal was never installed. And what's happening is that water's coming around the conduit, around the sleeve, because it wasn't patched the right way.
Yeah, and that right there is a major thing I see, especially in my division, you know, where we're developing these high-level engineered preventative maintenance programs for a lot of the commercial towers, data centers, hospitals, you know, et cetera, throughout the tri-state area. You know, there's a lot of problems with oxidation and corrosion of copper bus inside of switchgear on the wire terminations, you know, the connection points on the hardware. And, you know, I'm sure if some type of forensic investigation was done on the way the conduits were installed, you know, it's probably deriving from improper waterproofing, you know, because there's no overbearing leaks that are happening that can be identified. And, you know, you see the water starting to come through areas where the conduits are entering the switch gears and, you know, different points of entry through the switch gears or the transformers. And, you know, I'm sure that's a major cause of a lot of these issues building managers are seeing throughout New York City. And the effect from that, you know, and I'm sure performing the link seal on the conduit is a pretty quick process, you know, and the long-term effect from not doing that is causing people to shut buildings down in order to perform corrective de-energized maintenance on the switchgear to make sure that their main power source of the building doesn't blow up.
So my biggest thing that I see lately, and it's been going on for multiple years now, is when Con Ed comes in and puts the service in.
Yep.
And they have their pipe going through, and a lot of these vaults are leaking.
At the POE.
Yeah. Because they're not doing the correct job. Like, I was in White Plains the other day. I went to the dentist, and I seen one contractor piping going through, and I don't know if it was electrical or plumbing or whatever.
Whatever it was.
And it's raining out, and he's waterproofing just the top of the pipe, and he's not doing the right detail around the pipe.
In the rain.
In the rain. In the rain. I mean, it's an oxymoron right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't waterproof in the rain, and especially doing it only on half of the pipe. You know, so that's my biggest thing. Like, and you know what's crazy is that one of my buddies left Con Ed and he works for Rastani. And he calls me every once in a while, and he's like, what can we do to make sure that this pipe that we're bringing in does not leak? And that goes back to the customer service.
Yep.
You know, they're calling me for
advice,
and I'm giving them the advice, and then I never hear from them ever again. Like, the same thing happens with me on residential. I don't do residential. I had to go look at a guy's house today, and I do it out of courtesy. I don't want to do it. I do it out of courtesy because you never know where that could lead later down the road.
Yep.
You know? That missed opportunity.
100%.
You know?
And at the end of the day, you know, I always tell people, if you have a question, just call me. You know, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not charging you by the hour for the knowledge I have. You know, I'd prefer someone to call me, because if I can answer a question that would kind of put someone down the path to do something right and maybe avoid them getting hurt or, you know, a further issue arising down the line, I'd rather give somebody the advice that I have, you know, on the knowledge I have from the business that I'm in, you know, rather than not answer their phone and ignore them. And then next thing you know, on top of it, they're going to just call somebody else and get the answer anyways. You know, now they look at it, like you said, wow, that guy Gennaro, that guy Steve, or whoever, they're really a good guy. They take the time out of their day to answer my call, to step me through the process that I wasn't aware of. And now I could do it efficiently. Or they might say, you know what, I don't want to touch this. Can you come and have a crew handle this for me?
Like, I'm a firm believer, too. If I go look at a job, like, it goes back to, like, Lapolis gave me a lead, right? I went to one of the jobs. I met with the lady that's running the job. And she goes, when can you give me a price by? I said, you're going to have it by the end of the day.
Yep.
Some people they'll sit on giving them a proposal for a couple days.
Yep.
And then in another way, it does hurt me too if they're getting prices from somebody else and they're sitting on, and they see my price and they're like, well, this guy's doing it for this. But if I'm going to go to a job and I'm going to look at the job and I see that this is what it's going to cost and I have to type up that proposal, once I'm sitting at my computer, I'm doing that proposal and you're getting that proposal.
Yep.
If you're not getting it that night, you're getting it first thing in the morning.
Yep.
And that goes back to that service too.
It's extremely important. Some people have to wait, a month to get a proposal. When I'm talking with my team, some of the reps that I work with, they'll ask me, I just walked the job today. I have to put the information in the computer and develop the scope and build the proposal, this and that. When should I send it out to them? I said, as soon as it's ready, let's review it together and get it out the door. I said, why make anybody wait? They're expecting the scope and proposal to come in. There's no real psychology to making someone wait for a proposal. The only thing you're doing is hurting yourself, and potentially giving that opportunity to the person that can respond faster than you. And that's very important to be aware of, when you're working with clients, especially in our industry. A lot of these general contractors, building managers, heads of engineering, whatever you may be dealing with, they're managing not only electric or not only waterproofing or plumbing or mechanical construction. They're managing multiple layers of MEP and design. So why be the one trade in our shoes that could potentially be holding them up from getting their project over the completion line? It's almost selfish to a point to think like that, in my eyes.
Me and you had this discussion at dinner the other night too. Like, there's a lot more younger people coming into this industry.
Yep.
It's only that's the way it is. All the old timers are leaving, and I don't think that these old timers are giving enough respect to the younger generation. Yes, they do things differently, but this is the future of the construction industry.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was younger, I would walk to jobs and then into a job meeting. They got 20 guys there, architects, engineers, and I'm afraid to wear a short sleeve shirt because I had tattoos.
Yeah.
But then I'm sitting there and like 3 other guys have tattoos. Once I got that out of my mindset, and sit down, because I could sit down with the best of them, and one thing someone taught me too is you catch more flies with honey, and the person that knows the most is the person that says the least in that meeting. It's very hard for me to do because, like I said, I know a lot about waterproofing, and I'm gonna speak my mind. But then there's sometimes I gotta you know what, Gennaro, let it pan out. Let them do what they gotta do, and then you'll present something when the time's right.
Yeah, and that's another good topic. Maybe for another episode to discuss on the side of the generations coming up, and Carmine and I speak about it all the time, and Carmine actually made a conscious focus change on how he was building Lapolis Electric a few years ago, and being more accepting of bringing in the millennials, the Gen Zs, whatever the generational naming scheme is, and embracing the fact that there's younger people that are coming into industry, mentoring them from a veteran standpoint and teaching us, guys like myself, I have to tip my hat to guys like Carmine Lapolis, my father, Rob Doria, even guys that are only a few years older than me, but they taught me a lot. Got Eric Martinez, Ryan Knapp. These are all guys that have taken the time to teach me on how to approach this industry with the old school mentality and how they build a job and, go through the day-to-day operations. But at the same time, they embrace the millennial twist, the use of technology, the marketing, maybe looking at a different way to generate leads to bring clients in, looking at a project in one way opposed to another. And there's a really good collaboration in our office between the veterans and the newer guys in the industry. And I think that is a major area that leads to the success of our company, one of many. But that's all we got for today. Gennaro, I want to thank you again.
Well, thank you for having me.
For coming out. And I want to say thank you to all the listeners for tuning in on another episode of Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Lapolis Electric, by your host, Stephen Marcellino Jr. Thank you for watching.